A beautiful, clean river doesn't start here. It starts here. What we put down our storm drains goes straight from our streets into our local creeks. Simple changes can make a big impact. Like when you wash your car, the best solution is washing at a professional car wash. But if you wash at home, divert wash water to an area where it can soak into the ground, like a planter strip. Also, empty your bucket of dirty wash water in a sink. The wash water will make its way to the treatment plant, where it is cleaned. You probably know how to pick up your pet's poop when you're out on a walk. After all, it's the neighborly thing to do. But what about the pet waste in your backyard? Pick it up regularly, and especially before rain or irrigation water washes any of it into a backyard drain. Your pet's poo is full of bacteria and nutrients that can contaminate our creeks. Scoop the poop, bag it, and put it in your garbage. When tending to your yard or garden, check the weather and prevent over-irrigation. Runoff of fertilizer, herbicides, landscape materials, compost piles, and leaf debris pollute our creeks. Remember, timing is everything. Pick up any litter or trash that may get into the streets. If you grab it before water or wind arrives, it doesn't have a chance of ending up.
And we are going to call the Mendocino Council of Governments meeting to order. Clerk, could you conduct a roll call?
Director Raffanan? Director Klein?
Present.
Director Alanis?
Here.
Director Hansen? Okay, looks like Tasha says that we do not have audio online.
Director Hansen, can you hear us?
Scott, can you come? Oh, Scott's coming out to help. Tasha, can you hear us now?
Yes,
Yep,
now I can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just 1 second. Okay, let's start that again. Director Raffanan?
Here.
Director Klein?
Here.
Director Alanis?
Present.
Director Hansen? Director Carter?
Here.
Director Chris?
Here.
Caltrans Tasha Allstrand?
Here.
And Chair Haschek.
Here.
Thank you.
Right, very good. So Assembly Bill, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Liberty.
All right, moving on to number 2, Assembly Bill 2449, notifications and considerations.
We have not received any AB 2449 requests.
Very good. Okay, moving on to number 3, amendment of administrative and fiscal services contract with Dow and Associates to add staff for Northern Rural Energy Network, the NREN duties, and to fund administrative staff transition. Now that's the first document.
It is, yes. So you'll have, in the packet, you have a staff report and draft contract amendment along with the exhibits showing the changes to the contract. So in our last board meeting, I discussed the total Northern Rural REN budget reallocation that shifted some budget from the other two partners, Sierra Business Council and Redwood Coast Energy Authority, to Mendocino and Lake County. And the reason for that was that when we originally joined this partnership, way back in 2022, at that point, the intent was that we were going to be sort of a sub-partner to our CEA, and they would be doing a lot of the administration in our area and some of the implementation. When there was sort of a reconfiguration of the REN and it reached its final approval in fall of 2024, we became full partners, which was great. It gives us a lot more ability to kind of structure things the way we want to in Mendocino County. However, our budget did not change. It was still based on the idea that our CEA would be doing some of the things in Mendocino County. So as we kind of got into implementation, it became clear to the other partners that we really didn't have enough. You know, when comparing it to the other budgets, to the other partners' budgets and staffing levels, it was really, there was a real imbalance. So they voluntarily kind of reassessed their own budgets and freed up some funding within those budget, within the total NREN budget, because we couldn't increase the NREN budget as a whole until 2028. There's no opportunity to do that. So they freed up some budget and reallocated it. And they did that for both Mendocino and Lake County. So this funding will give us the ability to add an additional NREN dedicated staff person. And then also cover some higher costs. So for instance, one of the big costs we have, one of the big direct expenses, not staffing costs, but direct expenses is the energy efficiency kits. And the cost of those has doubled since we originally planned the budget, the cost of each individual kit. So it helps also make up for some of those increased costs and give us a higher number of those kits, and then some additional marketing funds so that we can have some paid marketing, like advertisements, to help get the word out to people. So those direct costs are not included in the Dow & Associates contract. Those are just go directly into the MCOG budget. But this contract amendment is just to add that new position, because that was not something that was identified in our original NREN services scope. So that's what this does. Our total budget increase, and this is for the period of, well, let's see, it was approved at the end of August. So from there through the end of 2027. Is $320,203. Is the total increase. That includes the additional staffing funding as well as the additional direct expense funding. And then 2028 will be a new budget cycle. So the 1 year of that position is identified in, the intent is it would continue, but there's the budget for 1 year is identified in the attachment to the contract amendment, as well as some shifting of other staff hours. So the hours for non-NREN dedicated staff, so which is myself, Janet, and Jody. Some went down, some went up, so there are some adjustments based on that as well. So that's part of this contract amendment. And then the other part, and we've got a report on this later on the agenda, but Janet seems to think that she can retire. And so this is something that was identified in the original proposal from 2024. Her retirement was expected during the contract period, and we identified in that proposal that our plan was to have her continue on a temporary basis, part-time, to train and kind of have a smooth transition. So what this will do is it will allow her to work an average of 8 hours a week after she retires, which is planned for the end of the contract year. So 8 hours a week, and it would take us through the end of September, so through the first quarter of fiscal year 26-27, which would get us through a full new budget development cycle, an audit period, an unmet transit needs period. So it will allow her to kind of guide us and her replacement through those kind of big budgetary issues. So that's part of the cost of that would be absorbed in our existing contract, but not all of it. And so this budget amendment also lays that out and then adds $11,000 from the LTF fund balance, which is from administrative savings from previous years. So it adds $11,000 to cover the additional costs that are associated with those extra hours. So that is the amendment that is before you today. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Well, I'd like to say, we really appreciate the governing partners reallocating those funds to really make this program work. And it really was a sense of unity and collaboration that they showed, and that's really appreciated. And so, okay. So, without any further comment from the board, we'll go to public comment. Seeing none in the room, any online? Okay, so we're looking for a motion to approve the proposed second amendment to the Dow and Associates Administrative and Fiscal Services contract.
So moved.
All right.
Leslie.
Been moved and seconded. So, clerk, could you conduct the roll call vote?
Director Raffanan?
Yes.
Director Klein?
Aye.
Director Alanis?
Yes.
Director Hansen?
Yes.
Director Carter?
Yes.
Director Chris?
Yes.
And Chair Haschek?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Directors Hansen and Raffanen, if you have a comment, please feel free to interrupt me or whatever. Make it known in case I'm not looking there. Okay. Okay, so now we're on to the public hearing for the draft regional housing needs allocation, the RENA methodology. Okay, and we'll look to staff.
Good afternoon. So based on the staff report, I think we'll make a finding that it was a proper notice for today, which you'll find in the staff or in the packet. And then for some background, the Regional Housing Needs Assessment is a process that the state uses to develop projections for additional housing units for regions. Some MPOs, they go through their own process. Some RTPAs, the states do it for them, or the state does it for them. And we are one of the lucky ones that gets to do it on our own. And so this current cycle, which is the 7th, goes from 2027 to 2035. And on the 15th of August, MCOG received a letter from HCD with the proposed allocation of 6,456 additional units to the region. And so that's about a 250% increase from the last cycle. So staff met with members from the different community development departments across the county, and we discussed various factors that we could use that are allowed by the state, because it's all by statute, to appeal this. And so we did, and we submitted a letter on the 14th of September proposing that it get reduced to 4,936 units based on the data that was used, impacts from climate change that weren't addressed, and then regional demographics. And so HCD now has a 45, well, up from that date, has a 45-day turnaround period to say yay or nay. And then the next step is to develop a draft methodology for allocating the units. And so part of that process is the public hearing. And so I think at this point, we should open it up to the public. Yeah?
Yeah, I just want to explain that. So the methodology is just our plan on how we're going to actually develop the allocation, not the allocation itself.
Correct.
And we can do this concurrently while we're waiting for HCD's determination on our appeal.
And I think that your letter appealing the number, trying to get it down to the 4,936 was very well written. It's very informative. It laid out the case very clearly, and so really is much appreciation to all the staff that worked on it.
Good job, Neff.
Thank you. We'll see if HCD is responsive,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Okay, any public comment?
Good afternoon. I'm Gizmo. Yeah, I also am really happy with how MCOG has worked with the board, and I just wanted to say thank you, and especially to Janet. Every time I go in there, they're just moving right along. They're cooking to look for the future. So that's all. I just want to say
Okay,
that.
thank you. Okay. Oh, Director Klein.
Thank you, Chair. Question for staff. Is there a way that we can assist or support in this conversation?
I think that really the most helpful thing, because we're already in this process now, I think really what's needed is long-term RENA changes, like legislative changes, because the process, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's not grounded in reality. Absolutely, we need to plan for housing, but some of the adjustments, and they've kind of, every time we go through a cycle, they add on different layers of adjustments. So like in this cycle, we have new adjustments for short-term rentals. And I think there were a couple others that were new this time also. But it keeps, they keep making it a little harder to reach the targets that are already a challenge to meet in a rural area. And it is, while the RENA process is frustrating, it's then up to the local agencies. They have to accommodate those numbers in their housing elements. And, there are now increasing opportunities to, where they can end up with penalties if they're not in compliance. So I think what's really needed is long-term RENA change.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly on CalCog, that's like every meeting we have is talking about this AB 375 and trying to get changes to how RENA is calculated, especially because there's a nexus with transportation. And so it's really problematic at the statewide level. Okay. Seeing no further comments in the chambers, any online? Okay. Any other director comments?
I have a question. We're submitting this appeal on September the 14th. They have 45 days. If the appeal does not go through, do we have a plan of action, or was there a second appeal? Is there independent? Could you explain that a little bit?
The statute says that if we don't hear back from them within 45 days, proceed as it is. So.
Proceed as
With what they originally gave us.
the initial number.
Yeah.
Assume that our appeal has been denied.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the same will hold true for the 60-day window for the methodology.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if we haven't heard back from them, we can just move forward with what we proposed.
And while it may be difficult to reach their high numbers, we will be able to do something, correct?
Yeah,
Like, we won't be found out of compliance or anything.
We will allocate based on the methodology,
Okay.
and then it would be up to the local jurisdictions. So the previous allocation during cycle 6 was 1,845 units for the region. The region as a whole is currently on pace to hit about 92% of that by the time it's over. So getting 6,400 or 4,900 and change is a tall task, regardless of which number they give us.
Thank you.
Chair?
Oh, Yes.
Did we ever open the public hearing
Yeah,
officially?
we opened the public hearing, I
Okay.
thought.
Just checking.
You want me to open it again?
Just close it.
Okay. All right, so we heard public comments in the chambers, none online. So we are going to close the public hearing and no action is required. Okay. Okay, now we are going to convene as the RTPA. And we are going to recess as the RTPA and reconvene as a Policy Advisory Committee. Okay, so we're at the consent calendar. Any questions or comments about the consent calendar? Okay. Seeing none, okay, so we'll go to public comment.
Again, I'm Gizmo, and I wanted to come up and also just thank Patricia Austin and Caltrans for reaching out, and Byron at the CHP, and also the captain at the CHP. It seems like we've had a lot more.
Sorry, wait, Gizmo, just a
present.
moment. We're not on public expression right now. This is
Oh.
public comment on the consent calendar items.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're
we-
almost there.
Yeah. Okay, any other public comment on the consent calendar? Seeing none, any online? Okay, back to the board. We need a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I will second.
All right. We will have the clerk do a roll call vote.
Director Reffernan?
Yes.
Director Klein?
Aye.
Director Alanis?
Aye.
Director Hansen?
Yes.
Director Carter?
Aye.
Director Chris?
Yes.
Caltrans Tasha Ostran?
Yes.
And Chair Huschek.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, so that passed. Okay, so we'll go to public expression. And we'll even give
Again.
you your 15 seconds back.
Hey, I'm just trying to follow the calendar as best I can after coming in off a half a day of work. But at least I'm here and we made it. So, and it looks like we're moving into the future. So we're going to start at my 3 minutes, right? Tricia Austin, sorry, I think I got it wrong the first time I said Patricia. But anyways, I wanted to thank Caltrans for reaching out directly, called me on the phone. And we had a chance to talk for about 15 minutes on some of the safety issues that I thought should be addressed, you know, as soon as possible with their, you know, safety measure and moving into a place where we're looking at, you know, 0 fatalities. I think that's a really good place to shoot for, whether it be 2035 or whatever. I really think that 0 fatalities is a really good goal for us to shoot for. It might be kind of far away, but we can work on it. And I wanted to also suggest, and I know it's short notice, there is going to be a presentation and a bunch of different fire people meeting at the CC, the new CC facility in Willits, and I wasn't sure if Caltrans is going to set up a booth there, and if they weren't, I will have my booth there, and this is just to educate the public on trailer chains and how to tow safely. And so I know it's short notice, it's coming up Thursday, but if they want to pull up a truck and have a couple guys sitting on the tailgate there, I think people would be willing to come up and talk to them, you know, just about the roadways, about different things that they may see as far as safety goes. And I don't drive through Willits a lot, but I wanted to engage one of the council members on maybe coming up with a couple issues that he might deal with throughout the day in Willits, that Caltrans may have control over. The other thing I wanted to point out is the new bypass at each end, for a little while, the trailer brakes for some vehicles from the bouncing at each end were creating these skid marks where the trailer brakes would come on and then go off, come on and then go off. I noticed that Caltrans had fixed the one end already, but we just, I think, just as a heads up, we should visually keep an eye out for these spaces, because these are also places where the tongue of the trailer tends to be flexed and where there can be sparks from the chains driven into the dry grass. So that's my 3 minutes. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment in the chambers? Seeing none, any online? Okay, so we'll move on to the regular calendar. For item number 10, the presentation on the draft Noyo Harbor Multimodal Circulation Plan.
All right, well, I'm going to give this presentation, so let me get it here.
And we appreciated the presentation at the board 2 weeks ago, and saw the circulation plan then, and this is another chance for community outreach.
Yes. Okay, sorry about that. Yes, so we have a consultant team, and they did the presentations for the Board of Supervisors, City Council, and the Harbor District. But the MCOG board gets me. So, and I'm going to try to move through this fairly quickly, but please stop me at any point if you have questions. So this is a presentation on the draft Noyo Harbor Multimodal Circulation Plan. The plan has not been finalized. This is not action today, but an opportunity for MCOG board members to provide comment, as well as other members of the public to provide comment before the plan is finalized. So we had a project team that kind of guided the project throughout with MCOG staff, Caltrans, and a consultant team, which was made up of Fair and Peers, Green Dot, and CSW Stuber Stroh Engineering. And this is just an agenda of what we'll cover today: the study purpose, existing conditions, stakeholder engagement, project recommendations, and next steps. So the study purpose is to explore multimodal access, circulation, and safety improvements in Noyo Harbor, with the goal of reducing vehicle trips, enhancing connectivity for walking, biking, and transit, and support future implementation by state and local partners. This study was funded by an FDA 5304 grant from Caltrans, and it was implemented initially by MCOG. We applied for this competitive grant because we had been hearing from members of the local community, including the Harbor District President and former MCOG Chair Dan Jurdy, about the increased use of the harbor area both by locals and visitors, and that this was leading to a lot of safety concerns because just of the number of people and vehicles all down in the harbor and the modal conflicts that were happening as a result of this. So we wanted to explore some circulation changes and improvements that could happen in that area that would improve safety and circulation for all modes. So moving on to existing conditions, we'll talk about the location and operation, fishing and other uses, and the native history. So this is an area, the Noyo Harbor area is a traditional homeland of local tribes who use the river and coast for fishing and gathering. And of course, it is a working harbor. It's a very photogenic area too. It is a working harbor, so that's an important thing for us to consider when we're talking about any kind of changes. It has to work for the local fishermen fisherwomen, fishing-related businesses, all of that has to be taken into consideration when looking at changes. So some current conditions regarding transportation in the harbor has very limited multimodal access. There are circulation constraints. There are very few active transportation opportunities. It is a car-dominant travel pattern. There's a lack of a secondary access route and uncontrolled key intersections. So moving on to stakeholder engagement. This was a big part of this study with multiple stakeholder engagement events, starting off last September with a booth at the Noyo Harbor Festival. It was very well attended and a popular booth. People were able to fill out a survey and provide comments. They got over 80 survey responses at that event. There were over 200 attendees at this event, and outreach was done through flyers, social media websites, and media promotion. That was followed up by an existing conditions workshop in October. That was really well attended. There was a real mix of attendees from community members to city council members. A lot of the local business owners were there and employees of local businesses. So it was very broad representation. And the kind of ideas that were talked about at that event were improving the staircase near the bridge, a cantilevered walkway or some type of walkway along North Harbor Drive into the harbor, walkway through the harbor, improved wayfinding, formalizing and redesigning parking, the idea of water taxis, a possible road extension at the end of North Harbor Drive, and a potential roundabout or intersection improvements at State Route 1 and North Harbor Drive. So a bit more on stakeholder engagements. This is just some highlights of the survey results. 92% of people used a personal vehicle to get into the harbor. 21% walk, so obviously there's some overlap there, right? People are driving in, parking, and then walking. I think that's probably pretty common. And then 4% are biking. Another part of the engagement that we had in this was a project team that had other representatives, including the Harbor District, City of Fort Bragg, made up of key stakeholders, and that met 11 times throughout the project and guided plan development. So then in April, there was a 2-day charrette. There were about 30 to 40 attendees across the entire length of that charrette process. Again, a pretty broad representation of the community that participated, including tribal members, business owners, and local officials and residents. There was a more in-depth discussion of the project ideas that had been discussed at previous events, and it included walking tours, so people in various groups went around the harbor area, looked at the locations that were challenging, and talked about the ideas for improvements. And then at the end of this 2-day event, the consultant team sort of sketched out the concepts for these things and presented those ideas. So that's the end of stakeholder engagement. And of course, kind of the last part of stakeholder engagement is what we're doing right now, which is getting feedback on the draft recommendations, which we are going to talk about. Now, before I get into the specific recommendations, I want to say that this is just a planning project. There's been no funding identified. There's some funding possible sources that are identified as part of this plan, but no grant funds have been secured for the actual capital improvements. So that would be, if any of these were going to be implemented, that would be a next step in the process. And of course, the implementation would have to be done by a local agency like the county, the city, Caltrans, or the Harbor District. So, and there are a lot, this area is interesting because there's a lot of different agencies at play. So the coming down the hill into the harbor, that's City of Fort Bragg. When you get to the bottom of the hill, it's Mendocino County. You go through the harbor, almost to the parking lot at the end, it's all county, but then once you get close to that parking lot at the end, then it goes back to city. So it's really interesting. And then, of course, the Harbor District owns property throughout the area as well. So anything will require a lot of collaboration. All right, so recommendations, and there's a slide for each one of these things, but there's wayfinding, bus routes, a stairway under the highway, water taxis, a walkway into and through the harbor, parking management, emergency access, and intersection improvements at Highway 1 and North Harbor Drive. So starting off with the walkway into and through the harbor. So this would be a continuous walkway coming down North Harbor Drive, and sort of that, I don't know, brown, golden kind of area. Would be an area where there are already some sidewalks, so it would be kind of taking advantage of sidewalks that are already there, maybe filling in that area. Then when you get to the orange area, it becomes more constrained. There's coming down that hill, it's very narrow. I did, when I was there for the events, I saw people that were riding their bikes down. They're braver than I am. But it is very constrained, and so some sort of a structure would be required for a walkway in that area. A previous study identified the idea of a cantilevered walkway, but it could also be done with a retaining wall below the walkway on that slope. So a structured walkway through the orange area, and then once you get down to the kind of, I don't know, gray, dark gray, there it would be just sort of an actual walkway. It's flat, and when you get to that point, what we really heard from the local business owners and residents is that they wanted to kind of maintain the character of the harbor. And so the idea of, rather than a full formal curb gutter sidewalk, it would be a little more informal, like the examples that you can see in the photos. So something that was a hard surface, because the county or city would need to be able to maintain that surface. So not just a gravel surface, something hard, but something permeable. And then delineation between the trail, path, whatever, and the vehicle lanes could potentially be something like is shown in one of these pictures. So maintaining that, which is kind of used already in some locations in the harbor around parking areas, but maintaining the character of the harbor, but still providing delineation between the modes. So this potential project, and then it would go out, as you can see, it goes out until you get to the dark green section. That area would actually have to be cantilevered or built out because it is also constrained there. And then it would continue out to the parking lot. And there's some opportunity to kind of rearrange that parking lot to make additional room as well. And of course, there's beach access there. So this project would be implemented in collaboration between the Harbor District and county or city, because, as I said, there is this mixed right-of-way throughout there. This is identified as a midterm project, and the portion that would go through the harbor is estimated at $2.2 million. That is for construction only. That's not right-of-way. It's not project development, and in our area, project development can be very costly, so that would add a lot to this. It's not designed. It is construction only. And then the portion that would be leading into the harbor is estimated at $1.5 million, also just construction. Okay, the next recommendation is parking reallocation. So this is something that would reallocate the parking spaces that are within the various parking areas throughout the harbor to make room for some of the other modes. What's shown in this photo here is the city lot that's at the end of North Harbor Drive, but there are multiple privately owned lots too. And one thing that was really great at the different outreach events is that there were a lot of business owners there, and they were receptive to the idea of kind of reorganizing parking. There's a lot of spaces within the private parking lots that's just not very well laid out, and they could get additional spaces out of their parking lots. So this, again, would be a collaboration between probably city, county, and in this case, private property owners in order to implement these changes. And then that would allow some formalization of the on-street parking on North Harbor Drive on the north side to allow for the walkway along the south side, along the water side, essentially is where the walkway would go of North Harbor Drive. And this would be a short-term project and is estimated at 10 to 20,000. All right. Next up, this was a very popular project idea during the outreach events. So this is a stairway under the highway. And you can see the stairway. It just kind of goes straight up, go from North Harbor Drive up underneath the bridge, and then it gets to a certain point and it would split off to either side. This would give a way to get in and out of the harbor. It would also give an opportunity for people that were up at the highway level to, rather than crossing, because it's a wide crossing, vehicles moving at a fast pace, but they could use this walkway to go underneath instead. However, because something like this would need to be ADA compliant, it necessitates ramps then. And so that's what you see zigzagging across, is these ramps that would kind of meet up with the various levels of the stairs. It would take a lot of room. This was, like I said, this was a very popular idea. And then when the engineers, worked their magic on it, and you see what kind of structure would actually be needed to make the slopes work, it would end up being a pretty big structure. So although this was very popular, I think it is going to be harder to implement. Definitely would be dependent on competitive grant funding in order to do something like this. But it would have a lot of benefits. Like I said, it would improve crossing or eliminate the need to actually cross the highway, also, not just improve access. So this is a potential midterm project. It would be implemented in collaboration between Fort Bragg and Caltrans, because it's Caltrans right-of-way basically under the bridge, and the cost estimate is $2.4 million for construction. Next up is wayfinding. So there is, and it's wayfinding as well as some informational signs. There are already some signs there in the harbor, which I had never even noticed before until we walked around it during the charrette. And so it would be adding to that to share information with visitors about the history of the area, the fishing industry history there, as well as tribal history in the area. I mean, there's just so much information that can be shared, but then also wayfinding that would help guide people to the businesses in the area, to know that, if you keep driving through the harbor, there's a parking lot at the end that you can get to. There's beach access at the end. And then also would give an opportunity to direct people to emergency evacuation routes. So this would be implemented by the Harbor District as a short-term project. Estimated cost is $29,000. And next are bus routes. So one idea was that some of the vehicles that need to get down into the harbor could be reduced by adding a bus route into the harbor that could be used by employees of the businesses in the area, but then also visitors, particularly if it were, picking up near visitor serving accommodations within Fort Bragg. So this would be operated by MTA, and the cost, this would be a short-term project, and the operating costs would be about $165,000 annually. Next is water taxis. And when this first came up, we all kind of raised an eyebrow, but then when we got into it, discussing it with the Harbor District staff, she explained that it could be done just by private vessel owners that had the right kind of licensing, and wouldn't have to be something that was implemented by a public transit agency. And this could be done on a regular basis, but it could also just be at the time, busy times when there's an event in the area, something like that. Because one of the things that is, if you are not familiar with the area, there's a South Harbor area also where there's actually a large parking lot, apparently. But then all the businesses are in the North Harbor area, and the only way to get to them is to drive up and around. So this would be sort of a fun way people could park and then access the businesses in the South Harbor area, or North Harbor area. So this would be a short-term project. Next is emergency access, extension, and coastal trail connection. Initially, when we got into this project, one of the things that we wanted to look at was the idea of a new road that would go along roughly along the route of this yellow line. It would connect up to Noyo Point Road, which is the point that goes west of the highway up above the harbor, as a new, full-time use, permanent public road. That would then allow the opportunity to convert circulation in the harbor to one-way, which if you only have one-way traffic, it really allows a lot more flexibility with what you can do with the right-of-way that you have. It became obvious fairly early during plan development that was really going to be difficult for a number of reasons. There are issues with slope and other concerns there, but also the right-of-way is entirely owned by private property owners, and there was a lot of objection to building the road through that area. So that idea was essentially put aside as not really feasible within the near term. But still wanted to address the issue of emergency access. And so there is an emergency access road there now, but the idea is that could be improved. It would be emergency only. Currently, there's a road with a gate across it that's just operated by a key. I think City of Fort Bragg Police Department has a key. I would imagine some other law enforcement agencies and emergency responders have the key, but maybe access there could be something a little more high-tech that if it were improved, could make some changes. And then there's also in that area an opportunity, the sort of partial yellow segment there, that would go out to connect to the coastal trail. This is a project that would be implemented by the city, and this would be an opportunistic project, meaning it would be really reliant, or the timing of it would be dependent on when the right funding presented itself. And then the estimated cost is $674,000. And then intersection improvements at Highway 1 and North Harbor Drive. When we were thinking about converting a new road and converting things to one-way, to go along with that, we were talking about the idea of a roundabout at this intersection. Without a new road, without the conversion to one-way traffic, it really reduces the need for a roundabout there. Roundabouts are large projects, they're expensive, and so securing funding for something like that without an accident history and without a change in the circulation would be really difficult. So the idea of a roundabout is now a long-term project if needed. It also could potentially be a signal at that intersection. But then there are some potential short-term improvements there also, because there are some concerns with with crossing and then turning movements in and out of the harbor. And so potential short-term improvements would be to eliminate left turns out of the harbor and include a median and crossing improvements, pedestrian crossing improvements. So the initial short-term project is estimated at $282,000. Long-term, if it's a signal, would be $1.5 million. Roundabout would be $3 million. Also, these are today's dollars, so of course, a long-term project, would be escalated to the year of implementation. All right, so this is the last presentation. No, Harbor District is still coming up, I believe. Yes. All right. Harbor District is on the 9th. So there have already been some presentations. There have already been some comments received. This is sort of a summary of the comments that have been received. I won't go through all of these, but I'll make sure you all have this slideshow, and so you can see the comments that have already been received, what people have already said. We did receive comments at the City of Fort Bragg, comments at the Board of Supervisors as well, and then Caltrans has made comments in addition, and MCOG staff will be submitting their comments. So next steps are the Harbor District presentation, and then the plan will be finalized during October. It will come back to the MCOG board for acceptance in either November or December. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions from the board? Okay. Looking, directors, Raffanon, Hanson, Alstrand. Hearing none. Okay, we'll go to public comment. Any public comment in the chambers? Seeing none. Hearing a great comment. Okay. Okay. Mr. McNamee. Peter.
Am I unmuted now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. First of all, this is a very important plan. It's a very important question about what kinds of infrastructure investments ought to be made in the harbor. I would call MCOG's attention to that last item in terms of the comments, specifically aligning the report with the sea level rise study that has recently been done by the City of Fort Bragg in conjunction with its Blue Economy and Local Coastal Program update for the harbor. And in that study, what's really important and that jumps out immediately is the very high extreme risk for flooding and the danger of loss of life and property destruction as a result of flooding from sea level rise, from storm surge, both in terms of ocean storm surge and as a result that this is a harbor that is at the mouth of a large drainage basin, the Noyo River drainage basin. So you have two forces coming together to push the water levels up to very high levels. And this is no longer a theoretical discussion about something that might happen in the distant future. It's already happened on a small scale. Just 2 years ago, there was a storm that came in at the same time in January that there was a king tide. The storm surge and the waves did major damage to the harbor. According to the harbor master, it was in excess of $1 million worth of damage that was done to the harbor. The waves ran up onto the roads at the mouth of the harbor and literally surged to the top of the wharf for the North Basin. The maps that have already been released showing what happens as a result of these forces going into the future show that the North Harbor is at risk from now going forward for storm surges that would literally flood the entire North Basin and all of the businesses and the RV park that's down there. So what does that mean in conjunction with this report? It means that this report, the objective of it was to look at traffic issues and mobility issues in the harbor, but it was done without having the data from the sea level rise study available to inform that discussion. And so it presumes that the harbor is safe and secure from these actions, and that it going forward, making major infrastructure investments would be fully depreciated over time in terms of the added value to the public. However,
Okay, Peter, could you please wrap it up?
I'll try to. Here, I'll make it brief. Basically, my recommendation is to MCOG is to realize that sea level rise and storm surge is very real disaster risk for the harbor now, and that if you adopt this report, it should be with the caveat that if you're going to recommend funding for these projects, they should be evaluated in the context of whether or not the public investment in those projects would last long enough to be fully depreciated relative to other investments that could be made. I hope that makes sense to you.
Yes.
It's complex.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for those comments.
Yeah, I'll just briefly address that. So this is an issue that, you know, we've kind of had to grapple with, not just for this project, but for our sea level rise study that we're doing also. So obviously, the entire harbor area, you know, is an area that could be, or that is at risk. The transportation infrastructure is really just one part of that. And so do we say, well, we're not going to plan for transportation improvements? No, that's not the answer. And the City of Fort Bragg, who has recently done or is in the process of doing the sea level rise study specifically for Noyo Harbor, they've been involved in this project, and multiple departments within the city have been involved in this project. So I think we are, you know, we have been collaborating with them, but I believe that because this is just a planning project, not just a planning project, but it is the first step in project development. Any kind of implementation is going to require design, and that is the point in a project that you could incorporate ways to address or ways to be resilient to the impacts of sea level rise. Certainly you wouldn't want to design a project that didn't address that, but this is not something that would necessarily happen at this stage. It would have to happen in the design stage of a project.
Okay, very good. Yeah, thank you for those comments. All right, any further comments from the public? Okay, seeing none online, so let's see. So that was the presentation. You don't need anything from us.
Correct.
All right, moving on to item 11, presentation, public draft 2026 Regional Transportation and Active Transportation Plan, and we'll look to the MCOG staff.
All right, let me get this going here. All right, so the Regional Transportation Plan / Active Transportation Plan is a long-term planning document, so a 20-year range that MCOG updates every 4 years per statute. And so this covers all modes of transportation, streets, highways, bike and ped, aviation, public transit, maritime, so forth. And so we started this process last fall, and the previous one was adopted in February of 22. and it says the next one will be updated or will be adopted next February. That is the, I guess, drop dead date for us to do it. I am hoping that we can bring it before you in December. That's going to depend on HCD and approving the draft methodology that you guys saw previously. So if they don't approve it within the 60-day window that they have, then February will be the time we adopt this. So starting in the fall of 24, we conducted a needs assessment. We put out a survey to get an idea of trends that the public has now, as well as interactive mapping tool that allowed the public to identify needs, deficiencies, areas of concern. We distributed emails and flyers. We went to various community events, so Pumpkin Fest, I think Noyo Harbor Festival was one, something up in Laytonville, I wish I remembered the name of it. I've been to almost every MAC meeting. So we've been to a lot of places and used that feedback to develop the draft. And so during this time, we also conducted outreach to all of the agencies, both locally as well as Caltrans, the tribes, the airports, harbors, on your screen, GRTA. So these are the components of the RTP, goals and objectives and policies. There is a section for each modal element, and within that you'll see a needs assessment, an action plan, and performance measures where relevant. Not every section has an action plan, so rail, aviation, and maritime, because MCOG does not directly help fund those. I left them out of this presentation. The modes are in the document. And then there's also a financial section that identifies funding sources for all modes of transportation. So these are the modal elements that you'll find: streets and state highway system, county roads, active transportation, which is bike and ped, public transit, rail, aviation, maritime, and tribal transportation. So there's also an introduction. It gives basic information about the county. It gives some information on the results of the survey and a high-level view of the comments from the mapping tool. And then we made sure that we updated the greenhouse gas and climate change information that's in there to stay relevant with current state and federal regulations. So these goals and policies and objectives, these are the different sections that have those. If you'd like to see them in detail, they are in the document, which you can find online. I did not feel the need to go through all of them. It would take 20 slides. So the next few slides are just going to be the different modal elements, highlighting some of the short-range and long-range projects. I'm going to go through them fairly quickly. So for the state highway system, short-range would be the Gualala Downtown Streetscape Plan, ADA project through Fort Bragg, 101 interchange improvements, which is separate from the county's project, an ADA project in Hopland, and then Caltrans is also looking to improve their zero-emission charging infrastructure. And then long-range, additional interchange projects throughout 101 through the Ukiah area, the Garcia River flooding right there on State Route 1, some improvements at Blosser Lane and 20 in Willits, and State Route 222, which is also Talmadge Road. County's action plan, or county roads and city streets. I could go through these, or we can just look at them. Some highlights would be the North State Street improvement, or intersection improvements for the county, which is right up there by Empire Road, not Empire, KUKI, and the southbound interchange. Ukiah is looking to extend Clay Street from where it is now through the new courthouse. Willits, finishing up the rail trail project and doing road rehab and maintenance. Point Arena's Port Road rehab project and Windy Hollow Road improvements, and Fort Bragg's looking to do some rehab projects and make some pedestrian improvements on Willow Street. These are the long-range ones. So this is more of a wish list. A lot of this is not funded. Feel free to stop me if you have any questions as I'm going through this also. Active transportation element. So these are all bike and ped projects. Some of them are the same. You'll see Fort Bragg has a Willow Street pedestrian improvements. That was also on the county roads section. There is some more work for the county up in Covelo and Laytonville. Ukiah is hoping to fund phase 3 of their downtown streetscape plan. Willits is looking to do some infill, and Caltrans is looking to do some improvements in Hopland, Westport, Laytonville, and then McCarricker along the Hall Road. The long-range plans. Public transit. So they are hoping to design and construct a new transit center. So they already did a feasibility study to determine the location for that, or at least potential locations. They're going to be doing a hydrogen infrastructure feasibility study. Hopefully implement some public transit up into the Willits area and improve, or into Brook Trails, and improve service through Willits. Design and construct a new operations and admin facility, and then vehicle replacement and bus stop improvements as they come up. And then facility upgrades just as they are needed over the long term. So for tribal transportation, so because the tribes are sovereign nations, MCOG's role in this is to just work on, partnering with them to help them improve their systems. We are in the process, MCOG is in the process of implementing the State Route 162 multi-use trail, which I will touch on a little bit later on. And that's pretty much all we have for that element. Next steps, we're going to continue to do public outreach. We have done some workshops for the public draft. We did one in Willits, Fort Bragg, and Point Arena. Tonight we're doing one in Ukiah, and then tomorrow there is a countywide virtual one. And then we will gather comments from those, incorporate them as appropriate and relevant. And then after this, I'm going to start working on the environmental document so that we can hopefully adopt that and this plan at the December 1st meeting. Any questions?
Any questions? Comments? Was that Director Hansen?
Yes. I don't think it doesn't seem that there's anyone in South Coast that would agree that the Garcia River flooding could be put off for 10 to 20 years. I mean, it's been a problem both safety-wise, economic-wise.
Hold it. Director Hansen, we have a problem with the audio, so let's see. It's the internet. Okay. Could you start over again and we'll see how that goes?
Okay, can you hear me okay?
It's, we'll try again.
So I saw Director Hansen a couple nights ago in Point Arena, or last week. I think he's referring to the State Route 1 project dealing with Garcia River flooding. Is that correct, Director Hansen?
Yes.
Okay. The overwhelming consensus at that meeting was that it should be on the short-term project list rather than the long-term project list. And so that is something that we will discuss with Caltrans.
Okay. Director Hansen, does that match what you wanted to say?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yeah. So just one comment about, I saw where you're looking at one of the plans for off-ramps in Ukiah. And one thing I hear a lot is, with the bypass in Willits, that, everyone wants an off-ramp onto East Hill Road for easy access to the hospital. Is that something that we could include in this document?
You mean
Or,
in terms of adding an off-ramp to the bypass?
yeah, right. That's the concern that people have, you know, because if you're coming from Laytonville in an ambulance or Covelo, then you have to go all the way to the south end of town or go through town. And so people want that, you know, if we're looking at that kind of infrastructure project.
I mean, we can make note of it in terms of, you know, public comment, like public feedback. But in terms of adding it as a project, that is something that we'd have to discuss with Caltrans since it would be their project.
Yeah. So if we could just get that down as a comment, that'd be helpful. Director Alanese, you probably heard the same
Oh, very
kind
much
of,
so.
yeah, right.
Very much so. It is curious. We have a high-level regional hospital, and you do have to either cut through town or go all the way back around. And I really would hate for somebody in an emergency to be cut off on that because of poor planning. We just need to plan ahead.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. Any further comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to public comment. Okay, we'll go to online comments. Mr. McNamee.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'll try to make my comments as short as possible. First, I want to say I think this is a good step forward for MCOG. I've read the report. I've talked to your staff about it. I have some issues with it, and I want to make what I hope to be constructive comments that could be incorporated in it going forward. Particularly, I want to say that the purpose, as I understand, of doing this is to bring, and I'm quoting from the report itself on page 21, to bring, to leverage regional transportation funds to advance the long-term societal goals of the communities of Mendocino County and the state of California. And in particular, there are three specific goals that are overarching and of primary importance. One is to bring greater mobility and access to services for all residents. The second is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And the third is to reduce the cost of vehicle miles traveled in order to more efficiently serve the residents of Mendocino County. I wholeheartedly support all of those. However, I think that there is a problem. And the problem is that when we look at rail here in Mendocino County, what rail does is in contradiction to those three goals. And I want to make the case just for you to consider. First, rail is not an economically viable means of point-to-point public transportation and should not be included in this transportation plan. It does not have any community-to-community connection at this point. The California Public Utilities Commission has ruled the skunk train does not provide public transportation under state law, and California courts have agreed with the CPUC's findings, and I referenced the Mendocino Railway versus Mayor Mendocino Superior Court case. Second, because of the economics, geology, and topography of Mendocino County, rail is an inherently inefficient and ineffective means of transporting people and freight compared to autos, trucks, and buses, which I believe is the appropriate priority for transportation funding going forward and priority projects that MCOG should be pursuing. I specifically reference you to the 2023 report by Marie Jones Consulting regarding the economic viability of rail in Mendocino County, where she specifically lays out very clearly that rail just is not, does not have an economically viable business model that can allow it to exist going forward and without substantial public subsidies. Subsidies that drain money away from other more efficient and effective transportation means in the county. Third, the skunk train relies upon the worst polluting, most industry inefficient fossil fuel locomotives in the rail history. These rail locomotives are marketed as part of their excursion train trips as an opportunity for riders to experience rail transportation in an era of our past when pollution and exploitation of the environment was part of America's culture. That time has ended, but unfortunately, we continue to suffer from the consequences and negative impacts that era has left with us. I would reference to the California Air Resources Board's assessments regarding short-haul trains operating in California and their negative impact upon the environment and upon communities, specifically vulnerable communities close to railroad tracks that suffer from the air pollution and the water and land pollution that these trains consistently have on their neighborhoods.
Okay, Mr. McNamee, you're going to have to wrap it up.
I will, and I will just say this. The transportation plan cannot succeed as a long-term action, a long-term plan initiated based on goals that are in contradiction with itself. So inclusion of the rail as, even if you're not seeking funding, but simply including rail as a recommended need for transportation in Mendocino County undermines the overall effectiveness of your plan and undermines the three principal goals that you have. And I would ask that you seriously consider excluding rail. There's no basis for it in this transportation plan.
Okay.
Moving forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any further public comment? Seeing none online? Okay, we'll go. So what we're doing is, this is just part of the process for the presentation, so
Yeah.
you've taken note of the comments made today?
Yeah, I took note of the ones made here. I've already talked to Peter.
Okay.
So.
All right. So we'll move on to item number 12, Gualala Downtown Streetscape Project Update.
All right.
We'll look to Katie Everett.
Yes, Katie has joined us today. She is the project manager, Caltrans project manager for this project, and she'll be giving a presentation on some background and current status of the project.
All right, I'm going to share my PowerPoint here. Are you all seeing it?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, good afternoon. My name is Katie Everett. I'm the Caltrans project manager for the Gualala Downtown Streetscape Enhancement Project. Thank you so much for inviting me to bring a quick update to the project. The project status, this is currently, I fear I am sharing the wrong screen.
It's not in presentation mode.
Oh, hold on. All right, we're just going to roll with it here. All right. This project is ATP and STIP funded through funds from the MCOG for the STIP funding portion, and the project seeks to reduce conflicts between motorized and non-motorized users. We anticipate the ready to list in February 2026 with final project plans, specifications, and estimate development is still ongoing. That ready to list date is when we put it out to bid for the contractors, and then we expect construction in 2026 and 2027. Right-of-way acquisition is still ongoing, so I will not be able to speak in specific detail about that. We have come to an agreement with all property owners except for one, and we have reached out and continue to try to come to an agreement with that property owner. The county The county coastal development permit was approved in July and then appealed, and that process is also ongoing. The project has been through several iterations. The final project provides a two-way left turn lane, bicycle lanes, sidewalks, crosswalks with activated flashing beacons, a left turn pocket at Ocean Drive, radar feedback signs, and also improves the drainage system. Seen here is the southern portion of the project, just to orient the oceans to the top of the screen, and you can see Center Drive at the left side of the screen. Here we can see the two-way left turn lane through the busiest portion of the Gualala downtown. There are also two crosswalks here that would have the pedestrian activated beacons. At the north side of the project, we can see Ocean Drive with that left turn lane just north of Ocean Drive, as well as 3 more mid-block crossings and 2 side block crossings. This project, through the iterations of informal on-street parking, no on-street parking, the informal on-street parking that is located in the Caltrans state right-of-way was removed as an ordinance through the Mendocino County Plan, the coastal element. Iterations that included parking along the state route were indicated to not be approved by the California Coastal Commission. So we continue to develop with all the parameters possible to try to meet the best project for the best public good. There was a request to have landscape. The 2 feasible locations for landscaping were at the south of the project here in front of the community center, and also at the north of the project here. These 2 landscaping areas are not typical of Caltrans or outside our highway design manual, and for that reason we would ask that a landscape maintenance agreement be entered into. Anytime there's a non-standard item requested, it requires either a landscape maintenance agreement and or a maintenance agreement. The city or county are typical signatories of a landscape maintenance or a maintenance agreement, and no landscaping can be placed within this project without that being approved. We have been working with the Mendocino County Board of Supervisors and Mendocino County Planning to try to come to an agreement on the landscape maintenance, and we're hoping that that will come to fruition in the coming months. If there is no landscaping, the proposal is just to do native landscaping around those areas, which would include a native seed mix that has been approved by resource agencies, as well as local, the GMAC. And again here, this is a view of the south of the project looking north, and this area here on the right of your screen that would have been vegetated with some kind of landscaping, native seed landscaping mix there with herbaceous and native local seeds. If there is no ability to come to an agreement on the landscape maintenance agreement, there are several provisions within the Gualala Town Plan that suggest ways to find funding for public improvement. One would be a development fee, another would be a developer impact fee, and a third could be creation of a special district. That is all of my presentation today. I would be happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Right. Any questions? Just one comment. You know, with the landscaping issue, is it a possibility to go for one of the downtown beautification grants for that?
Is it a possibility to go for a downtown beautification grant for the landscaping? I think it would be possible at a future time to go for one of the grants, but for this project specifically, I don't think the timeline would allow for an additional grant like that.
Okay.
And I think that the big issue, so a grant could fund installation of landscaping, but it wouldn't fund the ongoing maintenance. And that's been the biggest hang up with inclusion of the landscaping, is the ongoing maintenance. And just, I should have said this before Katie started, but this is just an informational presentation today. this project has been in the works for many years, so, you know, we've talked about it here at MCOG a lot, but we do have several new board members, so we wanted to make sure that newer board members had a little background and that everybody got current project status update. So MCOG has been a large funding contributor to this project, as well as secured the competitive active transportation program grant for this project. So we've and sponsored the planning document, the community planning effort many years ago that led to this infrastructure project. So that's why it is here for you today.
So the board has a history of supporting this project.
Correct, yes. In our last regional transportation, we added, that was our last funding commitment to the project. So we've had multiple regional transportation improvement programs in which we have approved funding for this project over several years.
Okay. Very good. Right. Are there any comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to public comment.
Good afternoon, I'm Gizmo. Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to, I think I've said this before, but also for the new board members. I have a lot of family down in Santa Rosa, and the county or the city parks in Santa Rosa have allocated certain places for landscapers to come and do their own landscaping each year. And then they get to put in front of the park or the area where they're doing the landscaping their business name and their business. And I believe I've suggested this also before, is sometimes you can actually leave these spaces open and allow landscaping contractors to come in and do their own deal for 1 year. They get to advertise right on the side of the road or a main road. And specifically Howarth Park, if ever you're on Summerfield Road in Santa Rosa and you're going past Howarth Park, if you drive through the park, there will be certain spaces where the city has allocated landscape professionals to come in and do their own type of fire-safe landscape and flowers, cactuses, and different types of landscaping. So just a suggestion for the future, although I know the town is very small, you might be able to get some landscaper who lives in the vicinity to do the landscaping year by year, and also allow them a safe place or a place to advertise for their business.
Yeah, thank you for that idea. Any further comments? Seeing none in the chamber, any online? Okay, so this we'll just receive the presentation and comments were noted. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving on to number 13, allocation of additional surface transportation block grant, the STBG, program funds, and $215,000 from the partnership program for the Covelo State Route 162 Corridor Multi-Purpose Trail Project.
All right, I will give a little background for the newer board members. So this project has been around since 2014 when MCOG applied for an active transportation grant. For that, we then applied for another one the following year to what we had thought was fully fund the project. Fast forward. So the project itself is a Class 1 multi-purpose trail from the north end of Covelo to Hurt Road, which is just past tribal headquarters. It's adjacent to State Route 162 on the west side. There is also an east-west connector just south of the gas station that connects to Henderson Road, or Henderson Lane, excuse me. In total, it's approximately 2 miles long, with 1.5 miles being on the state highway. And so we started designing it in 2015, well, started the environmental work in 2015, started designing, I believe, in 2018-ish, finished design and right away to get our construction allocation in 22. We awarded a contract in April, I believe, of 23 and broke ground shortly thereafter. Most of the project was constructed during that year. However, there were some delays in terms of the design of the bridge that goes over Mill Creek. And so between that, some right-of-way issues with the Bureau of Indian Affairs and some nesting birds, we missed all of last construction season. They are currently up there working and trying to get the bridge installed. They have poured the foundations for the bridges, waiting for those to finish curing. And I believe they're looking to start placing the bridge in a couple weeks. But due to the delays, costs, between the delays and the design changes, I tried to speed it up, sorry. We find ourselves a little short on cash. And so we have to finish up the project and get the bridge completed. And then we also have to pay for some additional plant or vegetation management and mitigation through this next year. And so, so far MCOG has contributed just over almost $512,000 of STBG funds, going back to the initial allocation or the initial application, and then covering some additional design and right-of-way costs. And so we are here to ask the board for an additional $215,000 that would cover the remaining work now, and then the additional vegetation work through the rest of the year, or next year.
All right, well, certainly this is a project that's been going on for a long time. It's, a lot of it is in use frequently by the people up there in Covelo. And it's, you know, the fact that you're getting people off the highway is just huge. And so we haven't had any fatalities in that area since it's been built. And so, you know, and that was happening with
it.
Yeah.
That was what really helped the application be successful. So it's technically two halves, one from town up to Bigger Lane, and then a second stretch from Bigger Lane to Hurt Road. So the southern stretch had an accident rate about 3 times this, that of the state average. The section above it, from Bigger to Hurt, had an accident rate, or actually a fatality rate, of almost 21 times the statewide average for similar type facilities. And I believe in the 3 or 4 years prior to us applying for the funds, because that's how many years we can use of accident data, there were 5 fatalities. And so since it's been there, there have not been any. So we'd like to keep it that way.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. All right, any further comments from the board?
I have a comment, because I'm still new here. So we've been giving money for this project, $250,000, then $200,000, then $61,000, and then there were delays, and those delays led to significant unanticipated cost overruns. We're asked now for $215,000. That's like 40% of what we've already given over many years. And I would just like to say, given the fact that it's a delay, delays are delays, we all understand things go up, but that's a lot. That's a 40% difference. That's a lot to be wrong on, even with delays. I mean, that's all my comment is. It's really just a concern that that's a significant amount of money in a project, you know, a program, to keep coming back to asking for more money on that. And I understand a lot of this is unforeseen, so, and it saves lives, that's what we're talking about, but that's still a significant amount of money to ask for. I just thought, that was my comment.
Yeah. And this isn't the total amount of the project.
Correct. This is just what we've been giving, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, there's been about, I think, just over 4 million of ATP funds, active transportation. And then Caltrans has also, it's over 3 million. I have to look at the exact number of complete streets money also. So they've contributed
But what would you say the total amount of the project is? You know,
over $8 million.
over $8 million.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any public comment? Any online? Okay, we'll go back to the board.
I'll move the recommended action.
I will second.
All right. Any further comment from the board? Seeing none, we'll do the roll call vote.
Director Raffanan?
Yes.
Director Klein stepped out. Director Alany?
Yes.
Director Hansen? Director Carter?
Yes.
Director Chris?
Yes.
Alternate Tasha Ostrom?
Yes.
And Chair Haschek.
Aye. All right, so at this point, we're at item 14. We'll recess as a policy advisory committee. We'll reconvene as a RTPA, and we'll ratify the action of policy advisory committee. So we need a motion on that.
I will move that we ratify.
I'll second.
Okay, we don't need public comment on that, no, because we've already gone through the whole thing. So, any further, no, let's just do a vote.
Director Raffanan?
Yes.
Director Alany?
Yes.
Director Hansen? Director Carter? Director Chris?
Yes.
And Chair Haschek.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to reports. So we'll go to Caltrans District 1. Tatiana Ostrom.
Hi, thank you. State Route 20 at Road 144, there were concerns vocalized during public expression at the previous meeting about this intersection. On September 23rd, our traffic safety team performed a field review and took video footage of all vehicular movements at this location. There have been 2 collisions that have occurred at this intersection since January 2025. We met internally to discuss those findings, and we will be exploring options to initiate a project to make minor corrections to the project. So these options may include improvements to the signage, arrows on pavement, and or lighting. So we'll keep you posted as those improvements move forward. The fiscal year 26-27 Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Program is currently open for applications. This program supports planning work and is eligible for RTPAs, local agencies, and Native American tribal governments, among others. So this program funded the Noyo Harbor Plan that we had a presentation on today, for example. Applications are due Friday, November 21st, and we encourage interested applicants to work with us on your application. The milestone reports that are usually included in the board package quarterly, it has a status of projects, and this has been delayed due to budget shortfalls and unknowns on certain projects moving forward. So we hope to have an updated milestone report in the coming weeks to share with you. And finally, and just an update on the district transit plan, transit operators are currently being asked to complete a location-based survey tool by October 17th, which identifies transit needs on the state highway system. That's all I have today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Let me add for the board, for those of you that don't know, County Road 144 is the off-ramp at East Side Road in the Redwood Valley area. So that's just that short little stretch. So basically the off-ramp.
All right, moving on to Mendocino Transit Authority.
All right, thank you. We're pleased to report that NV5 has been selected as the consultant for the design of the MTA solar canopy and electric vehicle charging infrastructure project. We'll be meeting with them Thursday to start designing this charging infrastructure that we've been planning for forever, pretty much. And Tasha's little jab about that survey was probably directed at me since I haven't finished mine yet. So that's all.
Is that it? Jacob? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the Great Redwood Trail Agency. That's my report. So happy to report that Senator McGuire, working with the Assembly and the Senate, got the governor to approve $50 million from Proposition 4 for the following purposes. One is $650,000 to complete the master plan for the Great Redwood Trail project. Second is $41,350,000 for completion of the Great Redwood Trail project itself. $3 million for environmental restoration in Eel River Canyon, and $5 million for the preservation of tribal cultural resources along the Great Redwood Trail. So certainly, you know, it's a lot of money, but it's a huge project too. And I think the environmental restoration of the Eel River Canyon is critical, and $3 million is going to go quickly. We did hire a person to do a toxic assessment of the canyon, and we'll see what comes out of that. So, okay, and we also passed a resolution to stating our intentions as far as environmental review and what the intent of the board is, because there's a lot of questions, because since we're getting Prop 4 money, there is an exemption to CEQA for the project. And so this framework, or the resolution, is we're intent on developing a framework to identify toxic pollutants from legacy railroad operations and assess operations for cleanup in a consistent manner across the corridor. Creating a prioritized restoration checklist to integrate with trail development, beginning with the Eel River watershed. Developing a proposal for creation and facilitation of a tribal advisory committee for board consideration in early 2026. Developing a plan to invite tribes to participate in management of future segments of the Great Redwood Trail with near-term goals of ensuring ceremonial and cultural gathering uses of the corridor. Exploring contracting opportunities to draw on tribal cultural knowledge in trail planning and implementation. And lastly, advancing partnerships for ecological restoration in coordination with local, tribal, and conservation partners. So that will be kind of like the guiding principles of what we're doing on the Great Redwood Trail. Okay, so that's it for my report. Okay, we'll move on to the MCOG staff. Summary of meetings.
Oh, you want to say? I think Janice got something to comment on the summary of meetings.
Oh, hi, everybody. Yes, I just had one thing to call out. A couple weeks ago, I attended the North State Superregion meeting in Chico, which was very interesting. It was sort of in conjunction with a California Transportation Commission town hall meeting. So they had several events over 3 days, and which is that the meetings were at Butte County Association of Governments, our sister agency. So there were.
Could you make sure you're talking to the microphone?
Can you hear me now?
A little better.
Okay. Yeah. So because of this Transportation Commission town hall, in conjunction with the North State Superregion meeting, there were a lot of their staff there. They were out in force, so they got to hear everybody's presentations, and there were some other events. The commission went on a tour of Paradise and the rebuild going on there. I did not attend that particular day. I took some work along with me. But at the Superregion meeting, I reported out from the Zero Emission Vehicle Working Group, which I started 5 years ago and have been leading that. And I'm going to be handing off that leadership shortly. I've got another meeting to go this month. So I hope they keep that going. It's been pretty productive. And also an interesting presentation from the other committee of the Superregion, which is the Transit Working Group. And they've been working on this North State Express plan. And I have a little brochure here. I looked it up on their site from the QR code, and I could just tell you really briefly what that says. It's a plan to to provide faster, better transit services to the Bay Area and Sacramento. And Jacob King at MTA is going to know all about this. He could probably speak to it better. But this is a proposed express bus service connecting the four corners of US 101, I-5, SR 299, and State Route 20 corridors with each other and with Sacramento and the Bay Area. So that it will have operate under a unified customer-facing brand and be fully coordinated with local public transit agencies. So that's kind of an exciting thing that they've been working on. So other than that, there was a pretty full agenda. I was pleased to attend the town hall as well and hear what's going on over there. It was an overflow crowd at Butte Council of Governments. So,
and certainly your leadership in that group with the EVs is
thank you. It's
certainly
really
appreciated.
Been a pleasure, and we've had really great fellowship with our other counties. It's a 16-county super region, you know, of rural agencies like ours that it's hard to get a lot done on our own, and so we band together and see what we can get done. That's my report on the that particular set of meetings in Chico a couple weeks ago. Can we move on to the next item?
Are we on to I, status of joint powers agreement? Amendment?
Yeah, I'll report on that. We're just wrapping up the execution of these documents. All 5 of our member cities and county have already approved by resolution to approve the amendment that was proposed to add energy efficiency and climate related programs. So they've all approved that, and now we're just getting signatures. The county and City of Fort Bragg have signed off on the amended joint powers. And now I'm just waiting for cities of Ukiah, Willits, and Point Arena to sign off. And then I will provide the fully executed amended joint powers agreement to the various clerks. So that's where we are right now. I hope to get that done while I'm still here.
So do you need any help from any of the representatives, directors who represent those entities?
I'll let you know if we do. Yeah, it's really kind of an administrative sign off with I think the attorney, the mayor, and the clerk on each of those. So I have to round them up.
Okay. All right. So then moving on to the deputy director and CFO, retirement and recruitment.
Yes, so as I mentioned earlier, Janet is retiring at the end of the year, and we will be filling her position, and fortunately she will be hanging out with us for a few more months to help her replacement along and help the rest of us along. It will be a huge loss to our organization to lose Janet, because she's been just such a great person to work with, and so thorough and efficient. And so December will be her last board meeting with us, and maybe not even be here in
we'll see. Yeah, maybe I'll
in November.
Show up and report.
Just for fun.
Well,
you'll just want to come for fun.
Oh, thank you, Nafili. That's very kind of you to say. Yeah, I won't leave any of you in the lurch. You know, it's a team effort, and I want to help with this transition. It's been a 30-year run come February for me, so I've been with MCOG since a long time. And so it is tough to leave. I won't give you a speech now. I'm going to be around for a few more months.
Yeah, we've got 2 more months.
Yeah, right. So, but, you know, put the word out. We're going to start advertising. And if you know of anybody who wants this wonderful job. serving in. We'd appreciate passing the word along. So, yeah, in November, I have jury duty. I already postponed it once, so I hope to join you in November. It might well be the only board meeting I've missed. I think it's the only time I've missed one, so we'll see. Maybe they'll let me off, and I hope to join you then. And then, you know, I plan to get the next audit done, work with a new recruit on the next budget, and so I may be here to talk to you again after December, but we'll see.
All right.
It's been wonderful working with all of you.
Well, and they can work with you for the next year too, whoever get
Yeah.
in. 1 day a week, right?
You know, under miscellaneous, I just thought I would call out the information packet with the Clean California grant cycle opening up, and I believe that's still open until November 1st. And that's a terrific program, if you have any proposals for that. And I'm sure Tasha Alstrom can speak to that. Would you like to know more?
All right.
One note on our next meeting date, so it is November 3rd, and we are planning a tour. A lot of times when we do our off-site tours, we start in the morning, drive to the tour site. However, there is a LAFCO meeting that morning, and we do have MCOG board members that are also on LAFCO. So we will be limited to the afternoon. Fortunately, the tour we are doing is a Ukiah area tour, so we don't have a long bus ride to get to our destination. However, we may try to start a little earlier than our normal start time, and then also wanted to let board members know they should plan on the meeting lasting longer than normal. So we'll start earlier and end later, but we will limit our tour to the afternoon. So it'll be a tour. We also will have some regular agenda items that we'll need to fit in. So meeting and a tour.
So we're going to meet here.
Yes.
Time
Well,
to be announced.
to be determined at this point in time. We'll meet here. There's a possibility that we might use the Farm Advisors Conference Room, but somewhere in this general vicinity, yes.
Okay.
I think we have that room reserved for at least the luncheon, and it's a good place to meet. We have parking here, centrally located, so we'll keep you informed.
Very good. Okay, so we'll go to the MCOG planning staff. Mr. Ortega.
So my first item here is just a discussion of the 2026 STIP fund estimate and RTP. So I'll start with some background. The State Transportation Improvement Program, or STIP, is a multi-year capital improvement program of transportation projects on and off the state highway system, funded with revenues from the Transportation Investment Fund and other funding sources. STIP programming generally occurs every 2 years. The programming cycle begins with the release of the proposed fund estimate in July of odd number years, followed by the California Transportation Commission adoption of the fund estimate in August. The fund estimate serves to identify the amount of new funds available for the programming of transportation projects within each region. Programming of projects is done through development and adoption of a Regional Transportation Improvement Program, or RTIP. The RTIP program of projects is a subset of the Regional Transportation Plan, or RTP, which you've heard a little about today. The CTC adopted the fund estimate for the 2026 STIP at its August 14 meeting. There is $280,000 in new planning, programming, and monitoring funds for our region. And because MCOG utilized the ability to program up to their maximum share in the last cycle, which is in advance of funds from future cycles, there is no additional funding for new or existing projects or unprogrammed balance in this cycle. Now, MCOG staff has notified the TAC that there's no new funds available for projects, and we requested input from them on whether they wanted to make any changes to existing projects. We have not received any responses. A draft RTIP is anticipated for us to present to you guys at the board meeting in November, and the final RTP is scheduled for December. At this time, there's no action required.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
Of course. You're going to hear my voice for a little bit because I got the next two as well.
Okay.
So just an update on work element number 5, which is the Mendocino County Sea Level Rise Roadway Impact Study. The last time I was here, we were working on the project website and launching that. I'm happy to report that the project website is now live, which is progress from our last update. We are now working on a community engagement plan with consultants. A draft has been given to stakeholders and it has been reviewed. Comments have been given to the consultants, and now we're just waiting to finalize that and begin the project or the community engagement. And then that'll give us better ideas and understanding of the site selection process. So that is that. Be happy to answer any questions on that. None. All right. And for work element number 8, the Mendocino County Regional Vehicle Miles Traveled Mitigation Program. For this VMT grant, MCOG submitted responses to Caltrans's special conditions requests, and the OWP was amended at the August 18th board meeting. We are now just waiting on a notice to proceed from Caltrans in order for us to begin procurement.
And when you say the OWP was amended, what is OWP?
Overall work program?
Okay. All right.
Any questions?
Seeing none.
Sweet. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
All right. So we'll go on to Mr. Walker with the Northern Rural Energy Network.
Hi, folks. I will just give you a couple of brief updates on how things are going with NREN. I wanted to highlight that our phone-based home assessments are now up and running, and we're doing outreach to let folks know about that. So we schedule for half an hour to an hour, and we get on the phone with folks and walk through a whole list of items in their home to learn more about their home and their appliances and their insulation and various things. And then based on their objectives and what we find out from that home assessment, we put together a report for them with some customized suggestions on things that they might do to save energy and save money. So that's kind of the latest offering that we rolled out, and we're scheduling folks now and have those ongoing.
Who qualifies for that?
Those are available to anybody in Mendocino County if you have a PG&E gas or electric bill, which pretty much covers everybody except off-gridders, unfortunately.
Okay, and they can just call the office?
Yes.
Or is there a dedicated line for it?
Calling the office works, going to our website works. Either way, getting a hold of us, we're happy to. We have a little application. We have folks fill that out, then we schedule the next available time.
Very good.
Yeah. Let's see. As it says in the notes here, we've been doing quite a bit of outreach activities in the last month. Some presentations to local MACs, including Hopland and Redwood Valley. Some different activities up in Laytonville, the farmers market and the food bank. And we were over at the county fair, which was fun as well. So doing all that we can to get out there and meet the public and let them know about our programs. Ramping up our marketing. We'll be launching, well, currently just right now, we're launching a couple of test runs on some social media marketing and other avenues to get on people's radar so that they can become aware of our rebates and our home assessments and our free energy kits. We're scheduled at a couple of senior centers over the next month or two to do free energy kit giveaways. So we're promoting those and letting folks know that those are coming up. And traveling next week up to Tahoe for a gathering of a large portion of our regional folks to do some in-person planning and discussing and for good portion of it will be focusing on programs that we're launching and rolling out next year and how to make that all run smoothly. So that's pretty much the highlights for me. If you have any questions, let me know.
Seeing none, but thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. Going on to the director's reports. None? Okay. Director Raffanan. Or Hanson. Hearing none? Okay, I'm good, and then we'll go to the CalCog. I'm the representative on CalCog. We had a meeting just a week or so ago. Talked about, you know, the RENA numbers and this collaboration that they're doing with other entities to try to reform the AB 375. And, you know, that's an ongoing process, but they're doing the work that's needed to be done. And that's about it. All right. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting at 3:30.
All right. Thank you, everyone.